What's going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Time for another episode of the Ancestry Anthology, coming all the way out of Lost Omens, the Mwangi Expanse. First up, the Grippli. If you're liking what you're seeing, remember to like, subscribe, and ding the bell. Stay caught up on all your stuff now. Let's dive in. Okie dokie. So, of course, we covered the Grippli and 1E. How could we miss them? Follow this card right up here for like one of the first videos this channel ever put out back in the day. In case you happen to sleep on them, Grippli are humanoid tree frogs. You got your oversized eyes, your wide mouths, your general gangly arms and legs, whose skin range in basically all the colors of the rainbow based on where they live and what they're trying to do for camouflage. They reach adult size of about 2 feet about 3 years after they hatch. They're considered adults by 12 and generally live to be about 60 years old. Within their own communities, they live a very hunter-gatherer lifestyle, reshaping the land around them to suit their needs. This is set up in small villages, loosely allied, throwing resources back and forth, living with nature rather than exploiting it for their own gain. That said, though the Grippli are receiving their printing in Lost Omens, the Mwangi Expanse, Grippli can be found on almost every continent of Golarion, and some speculation from a very, very old 1E printing that they didn't originate on Golarion. Anyway, down to mechanics. The Grippli Ancestry will net you 6 HP. They are small creatures, not tiny at 2 feet. That feels almost like a missed opportunity to put somebody down there with the sprites. Don't know what I'm talking about, follow this card. With a speed of 25 feet. As it was in 1E, so it is in 2E. The Grippli receives an ability boost to Dexterity and Wisdom with a freebie. Well, I guess that wouldn't know anything, but you know what I mean. With a -2 to Strength, that stat block still looks really, really good. A bonus to 2 stats that everybody wants, and a penalty to a stat that a lot of people can do without. They begin play speaking Common, Grippli, additional languages for a positive int, and possess low light vision for those heritages. First, the Poison Hide Grippli gains the Toxic Skin reaction once per hour. When a creature touches you, such as by grabbing you, punching you, or using a touch range spell against you, the triggering creature takes 1d4 poison damage with a basic fort save using either your class DC or spell DC, whichever is higher. This ticks up at 3rd and every 2 levels after, increasing further, putting more d4s down when somebody hits you. I really like this. A reaction that does damage instead of like strictly mitigating, champions aside, is a very useful tool to have in one's pocket when you can tell what's an on-level creature. Well, I guess any creature is on level when you're not building a character. When the snake, I say snake a lot, bites the frog and then immediately dies from poison damage because you're using your reaction, because you know the snake has been slapped around a couple times and might die to 3d4 poison damage. The Snap Tongue Grippli can use its tongue to deliver touch range spells and perform extremely simple interact actions, such as opening and locked doors. Your tongue can't perform actions that require fingers or significant manual dexterity, including any action that require a check. You can't use it to hold items. Prehensile tail, but it comes out of your mouth. It works great at dinner parties, trust me. The Sticky Toe Grippli gets a +2 circumstance bonus to the fort and reflex DCs against disarms, shoves, and trips coming at them. When ascending trees, vines, and other foliage, if they roll a success on the athletics check to climb, they get a crit success instead. Wind Web Grippli have so much webbing along their hands and toes that they don't take fall damage. Neat. For our Ancestry feats, Grippli Lore gets you trained in nature and stealth, or something else if you would already have one of those, as well as indeed Grippli Lore. Grippli Weapon Familiarity gets you trained with blowguns, hatchets, scythes, didn't see that one coming, short bows, and composite short bows. You also gain access to all uncommon Grippli weapons, treating the martial ones as simple and the advanced as martial. And for those, we must refer back to our Ancestry guide, the Hand Adds, and Rungu. The Hand Adds being a 1d4 slashing light bulk martial weapon in the Axe group with the Agile, Forceful, Grippli, Sweep, and Thrown 10 traits. Its big brother, the Two-Handed Adds, does 1d10 slashing with the Forceful and Sweep traits. And the Rungu, a 1d6 bludgeoning, shove, throw 30 feet club. Next up, Hunter's Defense. If you're trained in nature, as a reaction once per hour, if a creature with the animal, beast, elemental, fey, fungus, or plant traits attacks you and you can see them, the triggering attack roll targets your nature DC instead of your AC. This lets you dodge AC penalties, but you're still like flat-footed if someone is sneak attacking you. In some campaigns, that's real good. Just like, don't try to use it against dragons, it'll hurt you. Jungle Strider, of course, ignores difficult terrain in forests and jungles. When they use the acrobatics skill to balance on narrow surfaces or uneven ground made of plant material, they are not flat-footed, and when they roll a success on one of those acrobatics checks, they get a critical success instead. The Nocturnal Grippli must choose this feat at first level, of course, gains dark vision. On to the 5ths. Grippli Glide. If you were a Wind Web Grippli for one action and you have one hand free, you have the ability to fly around in the trees, falling 5 feet down, 10 feet if you don't have both your hands free, and then up to 25 feet forward through the air. Now, as long as you haven't reached the ground as you're falling to the ground, you remain in the air at the end of your turn, as long as you used an action to do this. Did not think I would see pseudo fly speeds on the Grippli, but alright, fair enough. Grippli, a weapon innovator, gets the critical specialization effect for all their weapons, and then Long Tongue for the Snap Tongue Gripplis. When you use your tongue to deliver touch range spells or perform very simple interact actions, you can do so at a distance that is 5 feet beyond your usual reach. It's slapping the reach trait on Shocking Grasp. Next up, Tenacious Net, because Grippli, of course, have always been so associated with nets. The athletics DC to force open or escape a net that a Grippli with this feat uses increases from 16 to 18. After a creature you grabbed with a net escapes or forces open the net, stray strands of the net cling to the creature, causing them to remain flat-footed until the beginning of the next turn, holding the debuff out for longer, making things shittier for them. Not bad. At 9th level, Absorb Toxin as a reaction if you are not immune to disease or poisons, and attempt to save against a disease or poison effect that affects an area. Your skin absorbs poison and can consciously draw toxins into your body to protect your friends. Attempt to counteract checked against the triggering effect. Your counteract level equals half your level rounded up. And for the roll, use either your class DC minus 10 or your spellcasting ability modifier plus your spellcasting proficiency bonus. If you counteract the triggering effect, you end the effect for all other creatures in the area, but you have to save with a -2 penalty. Altruism. Ricocheting Leap, probably my favorite one out of these. You need wall jump and to be an athletics master. You can use wall jump to make additional jumps off creatures larger than you as if they were walls. Wall jump, of course, a skill feat. If you're adjacent to a wall at the end of a jump, you don't fall as long as your next action is another jump, letting you Prince of Persia your way up the walls. Once per turn, when you make an additional jump off a creature this way, you can also attempt to shove or trip them as a free action. This looks like solid gold for Grippli acrobats who are using their dexterity for this. Just need to move somewhere else on the battlefield, jump into the what's an on-level creature? Giant of some kind, I'm sure. Cause it to fall over and then land somewhere well out of its reach for you to shoot arrows and things down at. Tongue Tether. So long as you can freely open your mouth, you do not need free hands in order to disarm, grab an edge, or trip. If you have the long tongue feat, you can disarm, grab an edge, and trip at reach, which seems to be the next Ancestry feat one would take here because you're already building into shoving and tripping. Then at the end, Envenomed Edge. When you critically hit using a strike with a weapon or unarmed attack and deal slashing or piercing damage with that strike, you get 1d4 persistent poison on top. And then Grippli Weapon Expertise to make you better at your ancestral weapons. And there they are, there stand the frogs. What I like about this Ancestry is there are a lot of Ancestry feats that you can play with that aren't necessarily take this is really good, but it leans into a certain build concept. Ricocheting Leap looks like something you could build around and get a little bit of value out of that. Again, the reaction that just straight does damage feels pretty good too. For one, your Grippli sorcerer who really doesn't want to get hit has something in their back pocket to protect themselves and to disincentivize things from attacking them, which squishier characters can need. And for those of us who want to be beat up on, it just helps close out the fight that much faster. It's unfortunate that there's not an Ancestry feat that turns that from once per hour into once for 10 minutes so you can focus point rest into it. But I suppose that is what that is. I don't know. I'm mostly just happy to see this Ancestry back in 2E because I had a lot of 1E players up till this present day. When I'm in a party in a 1E game with a Grippli, the Ancestry is just well loved by the community, so it makes me happy to see them come back. Anyway, that's all the time I have for today. What do y'all think? Are we rolling them up? Have you played a Grippli before? Throw it down in the comments. Let me know. We'll be back at it next time for more of the Ancestry Anthology. Until then, we'll see you next time.